Hello everyone, I'm Khaled and I'll be your instructor for this Python course provided by LearningWhilePracticing. In this video, we'll be talking about conditional statements in Python. So let's get started. Actually, before we start looking into conditional statements, we need to look into the comparison operators in Python. So let's assume that we have two variables. Let's say that we have x, which is equal to 10, and y, which is equal to 20. And then we need to check whether x is greater than y, or y is greater than x, or are they equal, and so on. In order to do this, we have a couple of operators in Python. So the first one is the equal operator, which compares for equality between two variables. So if we say that x equal y, and then we print that out, and then we run that code, we can see here that the result is false. So this is like a comparison operator. It has two sides, the left side and the right side, and it compares the values of these two sides for equality. If they are equal, it will return true, and if they're not equal, it will return false. And since here we have x equal to 10 and y equal to 20, so obviously they're not equal, so the answer here is false. And false here is called the Boolean value. And we can have such variables as integers, floats, and strings. We could also have some Boolean variables. These variables could have a value of either true or false, as we might have seen. And these become very handy in situations where we're using flags and while we're using conditional statements like if statements. So let's have a look at that kind of Boolean variable. So let's say that z is equal to x not equal y. So this is also another comparison operator. So it compares for inequality. So it would return true if they are not equal. And here we're assigning a value or a variable called z. So the value of this value z would be either true or false based on the evaluation of this comparison. So let's take a look at the type of z in order to make sure that it is a Boolean variable. And let's run that code. No, we didn't print it, so we need to print that to see some output. And we can find that the type here is Boolean, which is bool, as we mentioned before. This is a Boolean variable, so we can actually assign Boolean variables like this. Let's try another one. So let's say we have a variable, let's say it's m, and this m is equal to x less than y. So if x is less than y, this m would be true, otherwise it would be false. So let's print m and run. We can find here that the value is true here because here we actually have x is less than y. We have also greater than or equal. Let's say this greater than or equal. So it checks if x here is greater than or equal to y. Let's see what would be the result here. It is false because, as we know, x is less than y. Of course, we have less than or equal. If we print that, we can find that the value here is true because actually x is less than y. Okay, sounds good. So we know a bit about the comparison operators here in Python. Let's use this in a useful statement or a useful if statement. So how do you write if statements in Python? So let's look at the simple if statement. So if we have some condition like we write f, let's say we want to print some message if x is equal to y. So we say if x equal y. So we need to make sure we know that this operator is a double equal operator. It's not assignment, but this double equal means comparison. So we're checking for equality here. And then we have this column. We write this column and then we hit enter. After we hit enter, we find that the cursor here is a bit indented. from the original place where we wrote the F. And this indentation indicates blocks in Python. So if you're familiar with any other like programming language like C or C++, Java, you'll find that we would use curly braces like this in order to indicate a block. But here this is not the case. In Python we don't have these curly braces. We just use this indentation in order to specify that this code belongs or would be executed when this condition is satisfied. So here if x is equal to y, let's print x is equal to y. And then let's run that. We can see that we don't have x is equal to y because here when this condition is being evaluated, x here is 10 and y is 20, so they're not equal. So let's make them equal for the sake of this example and then run again. We can find that we have printed out that x is equal to y. Okay, so this is a simple if statement. We could also have some other branch, which is called the else branch. So this other branch gets executed if this condition is not satisfied. So if x is not equal to y, the code inside this branch would be executed. So let's print another message, which is x is not equal to y, and see what happens. As we can see, we still are getting the same message, which is x is equal to y, because here we have x is 10 and y is 10. If we change them, get y back to 20, run again. So message has changed. Now x is not equal to y. So this is also a simple if-else statement. Let's look at a little bit more complex example. So let's assume that we're having some student grades. So these grades or scores are, we have some numeric grade, and this grade is some value between 10 and 100. And we need to convert these grades into their like respective letter grades. So let's say that the numeric grade is great, and let's say that it is 100 initially. And then we have this letter grade that we need to calculate. And that should be just a character. And let's say it's initially A. Assume that the student has grade of A. We need to go over different conditions in order to find out what would be the letter grade corresponding to to this student grade. So we do an if condition for the grade. So we say that if the grade is less than 60, so this is like the fail grade. So the letter grade here would be equal to F. We need to add another condition, but not only one condition. We need to consider the case in which the grade is greater than 60 but less than 69, or greater than or equal to 70 but less than 79, and so on. So we have multiple conditions that we need to go over in order to determine the letter grade. So in this case, using a construct called elseif or elif in Python, that would be very useful. So we'll have multiple if statements. So the first if, and then if this condition is not satisfied, it goes to the following condition, the following elif condition, and so on until it finds the condition that is satisfied. So if this condition is not, so once it finds a condition that is being satisfied, it just exits, doesn't even execute the rest of the elif, and then eventually returns whatever we are trying to return here. So, okay, so let's start doing this. So here we have considered a case where the grade is less than 60. So the letter grade here would be F. If the grade is greater than or equal to 60, but it's less than 70. So in that case, the letter grade should be B. Okay, so and here is a like a logical operator that makes sure that both of these conditions are satisfied, not only one of them. So we need the grade is greater or equal to 60 and the grade is also less than 70. So it makes sure that both of these conditions are satisfied. Okay, let's move on. So as you might notice, whenever I finish the block inside the LF, I go back to the original indentation. So I just hit backspace in order to go back to the original indentation because this is how it should be written. Again, so else if the grade is greater than or equal to 70, but the grade is less than 80, we can have the letter grade equals C, if grade greater than or equal to 80 and grade less than 90, the letter grade B, B, and then finally else, this is the final condition. None of these happens, then of course the letter grade B, A. And then we can just print the letter grade out there to see our code actually works. So let's run this. Okay, so here now the grade is 100 out of 100. So of course this is an A, and we go here over there to the conditions. The first one is not satisfied, the second one is not satisfied, and so on. So it just goes into this else, and the letter grade would be A. Okay, let's change this grade. Let's say this grade is like 65 and see what happens. Okay, so 65 goes over this one. This is not satisfied. Goes over this condition. This condition is satisfied because 65 is greater than or equal to 60, but it's less than 70. So the letter grade here is D, and it skips the rest of these conditions and just goes to the print because it has found a condition that has been satisfied. Okay, let's try one more. Let's say 80. So we'll try. Okay, the grade here is B, which is correct because here this is not satisfied, this is not satisfied, and this is not satisfied, and eventually finds this condition to be satisfied, and then the letter grade would be assigned as B. So that was like a brief overview of the if conditional statements and different types of if, simple if else, and if else if. So hopefully you found this useful, and see you in the next video.
Hi, this is Joe from Learning While Practicing. For Chapter 4, we are going to see 5 different examples. The first one is a guess birthday algorithm. So we are going to open this first code in PyCharm. So let's see how this code works together. So since you've seen with Khaled in Chapter 4 that you can have conditions in programming. So you have, for example, ifs. So if there is a certain condition that is respected, if there is a certain something that is true, something that is satisfied, then a certain consequence will happen. This is the rule of conditionals. And for this case, we are going to start first of all by using a variable called day that we are going to give the value 0. So day equals 0 is the value that we will start with for our variable day. Then we will start with the first question, and question 1 is our variable, which is equal to is your birthday in set 1, and you need to enter 0 or no for no and 1 for yes. So this set contains 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, etc. So is your birthday, is the day of your birthday within that set? And here you need to enter the number 0 if no and 1 for yes. And here the answer is you prompt the user to give the answer by saying answer is equal to eval input and question 1, which is the value you are going to give for question 1. Okay, so you are going to give 1 or 0. Now, if the answer is equal to 1, and here when we say if answer equals something, we need to put a double equal, because 1 equal means we assign the value, a double equal means we compare. So is the answer equal to 1? So if the answer is equal to 1, there is one thing that we are going to do. We are going to increment day by 1. When we write plus equal 1, it means we increment. We add a value of 1 to the already value of day. So since day is 0, in case the answer is 1, in case I have answered 1 for the first one, I will increment day by a plus 1 value, and so it will become equal to 1. Then I will ask another question for the second set, and I do the same thing, except here that I increment by 2. So I need to increment the value by 2. So if in the first question the value was incremented, and if it gets incremented in the second, then I will have a value for day equal to 3. Then I continue with all of these questions until once I ask all of these questions, there is no way I can miss the day now, because I have all the information required. So it's something mathematical, actually, if you come and think about it, that you have asked your user all the possible ways and you have done the right incrementations in order to guess the correct date of the birthday. And then in the end, you have incremented the value of day by the correct value that you expect to happen, and that way you can print in the end your birthday is, and you simply put the value of the day, so string day, because you want to convert this value into a string value. And so in order to separate several strings together, in order to separate several phrases together, because if you put it into quotations, it's not going to work. So if you want it as a string, a variable that is not a string, you want it to convert it as a string, you need to print the first string, your birthday is, then you write a plus, and you convert this into a string because you need to add two variables of the same type, and plus the exclamation point, which is just something aesthetical. So it's just to for the phrase to have an exclamation point. It's not something related to the program at all. So this is what this program does. So let's see in a practical way how this works. So we're going to open the file in the project right here. So we are going to make sure to have this selected, and we are going to run our program right here. So we make sure to have guest birthday, and I'm going to try to answer with my own birthday, which is on the 25th. So is your birthday in set 1? And I see that 25 is within set 1, so I'm going to put a 1 for yes. Then is it in set 2? So my birthday is not in set 2 because it's not in one of these dates. So I'm going to put a 0. So no incrementation here. Here, same thing for set 3. My birthday is not in any of these. So I'm going to put a 0. Now I find that my birthday is back again within that set. So I'm going to put a 1. Then it's also present in that set. So I'm going to put a 1. And here you go. Your birthday is 25 as expected. It's the 25th. So the program has correctly guessed my birthday. So you can try for any date. Actually, it's not something really magical. It's just mathematical, as I was explaining to you. And you get the value. So what the program has done is that it has prompted the user several times. And after each time, it applies a condition according to the answer. So when I write if answer is 1, day plus equal 1, you're going to tell me what happens if the answer is 0. Well, nothing happens. It does not enter the condition. It simply checked. If it's not equal to 1, then it skips. It's going to skip this. Now, if I wanted to do something in particular, I would have used an else or elif, and that's what we're going to see in the programs number 2 and much later on. So see you in the next video. In example number 2, we are going to see a subtraction quiz. So basically, the conditionals here that are going to take place are in these sections right here. So first of all, we import the random module. Then we are going to generate 2 random single-digit integers by using the random.randIt function from the random module. And we choose something between 0 and 9, so a single-digit integer. Now, if number 1 is less than number 2, then we swap number 1 with number 2 because we don't want a negative answer. So we do it like this in a single line. Number 1, comma number 2 equal number 2, number 1. This will swap them with one another, a simultaneous assignment, because otherwise, if we say number 1 equal number 2, then we lose the value of number 1 and we cannot reassign it to number 2. So that way we do the simultaneous assignment. Now we prompt the student to answer what is number 1 minus number 2. And so answer equal eval what is this minus this, and we check the answer and display the result. If the student gives number 1 minus number 2 something equals the answer that should be given, it's correct. Otherwise, it's wrong. So let's run this program right here. In Subtraction Quiz. And so what is 8 minus 1? 7. This is correct. Now, if I do a mistake, 9 minus 7, if instead of saying 2, I say 3, it's going to tell me your answer is wrong and the correct answer is 2. So every time I run the program, it gives me different values, okay? Different values of the random integers 1 and 2. So as I said, if number 1 was, for example, 6 and number 2 was 4, instead of having, in that case, instead of, if number 2, was 6 and number 1 was 4, so if number 1 was less than number 2, instead of having 4 minus 6, I do the swapping in order to have 6 minus 4. And so as soon as I write the correct answer, I get you are correct by the program. And so this is the goal of the subtraction quiz example, making use of the random module and making use of the conditional right here. This is the conditional, and we check if the answer that we have through another conditional is correct. 2 conditionals right here in order to run this subtraction quiz example. So I hope you enjoyed this example, and I'll see you in problem number 3, Chinese Zodiac. Now we'll see an example that makes use of conditionals in order to get the Chinese zodiac. So the Chinese zodiac is something according to years. So each year is a specific zodiac in the Chinese calendar. So first we are going to ask for the year from the user, and then we are going to do a division of that year by 12, and according to the remainder of that division, because that's the percentage sign what it's used for, we enter a conditional with an if and several if and finally an else to know which year it is. If it's a remainder with 0, a perfect division by 12, it's the monkey year. If I get the rest of 1, it's rooster, dog, pig, etc. And in the end, sheep, if it's a remainder of 11. I do not need to say elif equal 11 because that's the last case that I have. So it's by default the final one. If it's not any of these, then it's this one. Let us run this program quickly and let us see together for different years what we obtain. So for example, if we enter the year 1987, we get that it's the rabbit year. So it means that the division of 1987 by 12 gives me a reminder of 7. So 1988 should be the dragon, and 1989 should be the snake, 1990 should be the horse, and 1991 should be the year of the sheep. And so 1992 is a year that is perfectly divisible by 12, and so it's the year of the monkey. So that way we can enter any year we want, and we will know which year in the Chinese zodiac it is. This is pretty simple. This is one if condition, but with several alternatives. 12 actually possibilities. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you for example number 4, lottery, which will interest a lot of you. For example number 4 regarding the lottery, what we have right here is a program where we make use first of all of the random module, and we are going to generate a lottery random number. So lottery equal random.random integer from something which goes between 0 and 99. We prompt the user to enter a guess, and we get the digits from the lottery and the digits from the guess. And the condition that we have here is the lottery number is lottery. This is what we start before going to the conditions. And if the guess is equal to the lottery, we get an exact match and we win $10,000. Now, in case digit 2 is equal to lottery digit 1 and digit 1 is equal to digit 2, we match all the digits and we win 3,000. Or we have a conditions with an elif and with an or, where we have one of the digits. Either it's in the first, second position, second, first, or second, second, or first, first. These are exclusive conditions. So it's one of them that has to be satisfied, and we get $1,000. And otherwise, we get no match. So let us run this program and let us test our luck. So here, once we get to pick a number, there's a random number that has been already chosen by the computer. So let me put, for example, 50. And 50 is a number where one of the digits is present because the lottery number was 58, so I get $1,000. Let me try, for example, 35. No match because the number was 16. So here I have actually 100 possibilities each time. So it's pretty hard to get the right value. So here it was 42. Let me try, for example, I don't know, 48. The number was 71. Let me try 23. Okay, the number was 2, so I got $1,000 from it. Let me try 99. The number was 71. So you see, it's pretty hard to really get the correct number. It's actually you really need a lot of luck in order in one time to get the correct number. So here the number was 27 and it was 97, sorry, and I chose 29, etc. So you see, I'm just trying in order for you to verify the conditions, and it's not very easy to get the correct number actually, because every time it changes. So that's pretty complicated. So here the number was 89, etc. But you can test it for yourself. So I will just recap what the program does. It has to import the random module in order to use the random.random int function from the random module. Then we ask the user to input a guess. We get from these the lottery digit 1, the first one, the second one. So the second one comes from the remainder divided by 10, and here from the integer division. And same thing for the guess, we get digit 1, digit 2, and now we do the comparison in the check the guess section with the conditionals. And in the end, we print for each case what we have obtained. So I hope you enjoyed this lottery example. We could, of course, make something with a bigger set of numbers and then compare them. We could like generalize this program to real lottery, and you're going to see that the probability of winning is actually pretty low. But as they say, you should better play once than never play at all, but not play more than one grid, because you're not really raising the probability by choosing several. You would need thousands of grids in order to raise the probability, and you'd probably in the end be putting more money than what you're going to win. So playing one is enough and more than enough. So I'll see you now in example number 5, point in a circle. So in the point in circle example, this is going to check if one point that we are going to give within a circle that we are going to give is contained within this. So the first part will be to draw the circle and then to draw the point using the turtle functions that we have previously already seen, then display the status, and we say that if the D is within the radius, that the point is inside the circle, or if it's otherwise, we have one solution that it's outside the circle. So let us run this program. Point in circle. So here we need to enter the center of a circle. So let's use the 0, 0 coordinates. And the radius of the circle, let it be a radius of 50, for example. And a point, let that point be for coordinates, for example, 15, 20. And so what happened is that it has been drawn. And as you can see, since we have a radius of 50, then of course 50 like this and 50 like this. And so we needed to check to make sure that it's not outside of the circle. And so the point is inside the circle. Let me do another example where I'm going to make use of the same circle with the same radius, but this time I'm going to give coordinates of a point which is at 50 in the x, but that is also at 50 in the y. And let's see what this gives us. And as you can see, this is a point which is outside the circle. So the great thing about this program is that we make use of the turtle module to draw everything, and we draw the first circle that we have provided, we draw the point, and we check if the point is inside or outside the circle. Let me make use of the same point, but this time with a different radius for the circle. So we start with a center at 0, 0, but this time with 100 for the circle, and we make use of the 50, 50 coordinates. And this is our circle, and now our point is inside the circle. So the verification comes here. The d, the distance actually, which is computed, which is x2 minus x1 times x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1 plus y2 minus y1 square root. So here we have not made use of the square root function, although it does exist in the math module. We have simply exponentiated everything at 0.5. But we could have done the square root module as well in the math module. And so if the distance is less or equal to the radius, then because this is actually the distance that is calculated between the point and the center. Okay, so this is this distance right here. If this distance is less than the radius, then of course, if it's less than the radius, then it's inside the circle. If it's more than the radius, then it's outside of the circle. Of course, we made an equal because we consider that if it's on the edges of the circle, on the perimeter of the circle, then it counts. Well, it will count as a point inside the circle. We consider, of course, that here, just for drawing purposes, we have given a bit of a diameter to that point, but actually a point has no diameter. A point is really just a single point. It has no radius, a radius of 0. So it being on the edges means that it's part of the circle. And otherwise, it's outside of the circle. And of course, in the end, we hide the turtle cursor and we put a turtle done in order to have a window loop that continues going on. So I hope you enjoyed this example, this final example of chapter 4, point in a circle, where we make use of conditionals and graphic representation, which is a beautiful tool in Python. And I'll see you in chapter 5.